Hello, Ganawage. I'm Kirsten Sheridan. I'm the liaison for Jordan's Principal here in Ganawage. Just wanted to put out a PSA for our community in regards to the operational procedures and the changes that are happening to Jordan's Principal and requesting funding for our community children.
What recent changes have been made to the ways Jordan's principal requests are processed?
Some of the changes that are happening is definitely the support letters that are going to be needed. They're asking for very specific letters from professionals. It's going to be your doctors, your teachers, your therapists, social workers, that kind of thing. Something within your circle of care for your child, and these have to directly link the specific needs of your child to the request that you're asking for. So whether it be tuition, some level of sports, allied services, occupational therapy, orthodontics, it has to be very specific and make that connection between your child's needs and the request that you're asking for.
How do I know if my request will still be eligible under the new guidelines?
When I had my meetings with the ISC, the Indigenous Services Canada, my partner and I have had a few meetings with them. They're being very general in the changes and whether certain requests will be denied or approved. But knowing my community, having worked in the community, and seeing the needs of our community, I can kind of give you an idea of what may or may not be approved or denied with these new changes. They're not, ISC isn't going to come out and say, we're not going to approve this, we're not going to approve that. It's more of, the elite sports, the private schools, the international travel, if you're going to, wrestling tournaments or hockey tournaments. These are the kinds of things that JP and the ISC are taking a closer look at because there's no specific medical or social need for your child to attend these things and for them to fund them. So I see, especially for Ganawage and the high level of athletes that we have in our community, that these are going to affect us. And I felt responsible to tell you guys that, if you're going to be putting your children into these elite schools or traveling and, the coaching and the camps and stuff, that it may not in the future be approved because of these operational changes that Jordan's Principal and the ISC have decided to bring.
What types of requests are no longer approved unless there is a clear medical or professional need?
Yeah, they did. When Jordan's Principal came out with their press release, there was a list of things that are no longer going to be approved, which would be like home renovations, furniture. I know, like I had stated, international travel. Some leagues in our community do travel for lacrosse, go into the States or to Europe. These are things that they're not going to be funding anymore. Some private schools may not be funded because there's no real connection between your child's needs and the fact that the child's needs can only be met at that particular private school. These are the things that they're looking at and kind of saying, well, they could attend somewhere else, or their needs could be met at a different school or a local school. So they're really looking at the reasons why people are attending these places or asking for these things. I know childcare is going to be coming into it'll be going under review for approval because we are subsidized in town for childcare, and the government does give you back a certain amount from your taxes. So you do get an amount of money, depending on, of course, number of children. You do get a chunk of money back in your taxes. So Jordan's principal is looking at that as well, saying, well, if you get that money and the daycare is subsidized, then your child's needs are being met. And they are attending daycare, you're getting money for daycare. So things like that, I know are going to be coming, probably won't be approved, along with eyeglasses. That also, there's a spot on your taxes where you can claim an amount back. Plus, we do get subsidized from the government for eyewear too. So there's a certain little things that, if you ever have a question, you can reach out to us and we can hopefully answer it.
What kind of documentation do I need to include with a request?
Yeah, one of the biggest, from what I see and from what my discussions with Indigenous Services Canada is, they're really looking for very specific supporting documents now. They had given us a list, healthcare professionals, so doctors, teachers, resource, principal, social worker, therapist. These people, these professionals have to be within the circle of care of your child. They need to know your child and know the needs. And the documentation needs to state the specific need of your child, especially if there's a diagnosis, anxiety, um, autism, ADHD. These specific things should be stated in the letter, so that we know that we can connect, the medical, the social, the educational needs of your child to the request that you're asking for, whether it be therapy, art therapy, um, tuition for a certain school, that that school will meet the child's needs based on this supporting letter from these professionals. We have in the past, received letters from, maybe a hockey coach or a family member. These types of letters will no longer be accepted. And especially if it's for art therapy or a certain specific need, that clinic or that person can't write the supporting letter either. So they can't write a supporting letter supporting themselves. You really need somebody on the outside that knows your child, um, knows the specific needs, and can state it in a professional letter.
If I received funding in the past, can I still submit a request?
So just because a request has been approved in the past, you still have to reapply every year, or every 6 months. It may not be, not all requests are for a full year. Some are just for a short term. But when it's time to like re-up and reapply, that's where, myself or my partner can guide you into, do you need a new supporting letter? You will need a quote for the services that you're asking for. And then it's case by case. It just because it's been approved in the past doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be approved again. Situations change. If there is a specific diagnosis that we know isn't going to change, then those types of things are easier to get approved. But if maybe your child has, anxiety and is going through therapy, then they're going to ask, well, how is it going? How is your child developing? If it was a request from 2 years ago and, you want to ask for more funding, then they're going to sort of analyze the situation again and ask for new supporting documents. And, you know, if there was an assessment when your child was 6 and now your child's 12, they may ask for another assessment just to, definitely be very specific to the needs of the child. So it is case by case, and you do have to reapply when the services are needed. So it's not a guarantee that it'll be approved.
What happens if my request gets denied? Can I appeal?
We have had some denials, not many, but you can appeal. We do have an appeal process here, um, which myself and my partner can always help you through. When you do apply for an appeal, it's more, again, just supporting documents. It's a very strong letter from yourself as the parent and the professional to link that specific need of your child to the request that's being asked for. The appeal process does take longer. It does go to the national level, where most of our requests here from Ganawage go to our provincial, go to the provincial level. But if something is being escalated and the provincial level can't make the decision, it will go to national. And that's where the appeal process goes as well, is to Ottawa, to the national level. And it's up to, I guess, a board of people that will try to make the connection. And it's not up to us whether it's approved or denied. We just have to wait and see with all that supporting documentation, hopefully that it'll get approved.
What are some common mistakes that can delay or prevent an approval?
I can tell you right now, like with the backlog that we had over the summer, reimbursements are behind. They're sort of bottom of the list right now because Jordan's principal is trying to catch up on, on the active requests, on active services that our community needs. So reimbursements for things from the past are sort of in the background right now. So that can cause a huge delay. Definitely not enough supporting documentation is a big, may stall the process. They'll be asking for more documents, more proof. There hasn't really been a lot of errors to say when we send in our requests. So in that case, we've been pretty good. Ganawage has always been pretty good sending in requests, but I think now with the changes, it's just definitely that those good supporting letters and reimbursements will just have to be on the back burner for now.
If my child needs a shadow or specialist, how do I know if it will be covered or approved?
Jordan's principal is going to be asking us if there's a request, especially for, say, a one-on-one attendant, a behavior tech at school, a shadow that your child needs. We're going to be asked to go and look into the educational organizations that the province has first. This is definitely a new step, something that we haven't had to do before. For these different organizations that are in our province, that may even be in our community, that we need to reach out and apply for funding first, and see if those things could be covered, partially covered. And I know we do have children in our community that need these one-on-one shadows, the behavior techs, to help them through their day, to help them, it's a social need, it's an educational need, to help these kids be successful at school, with their peers, with their friends. It was a sensitive subject because I want these things to be funded. It's definitely an essential need for some of our students. So if this is something that your child needs and has had in the past, reach out, and we should have hopefully this list of resources of places that we need to apply to first. If it gets denied there, then we can go ahead and apply through Jordan's principal. That's just sort of a little loop that we've been thrown this year, but it's very important to myself that these needs are met. So we will do our best to give you the information you need to apply to the organizations that are needed. And then we go from there and reach out to Jordan's principal for the remainder of the funding. So in that aspect, please don't worry and reach out to us so that we can help you and we'll get the funding that is needed for these specific needs.
Are elite or private schools still eligible for funding under Jordan's principle?
I know a big question for us here in Ganawage for our community children is the private schools. In Montreal, there's Cooper, there's Centennial, there's Miss Edgar's. There's very specific private schools that a lot of our community children attend. These private schools may not necessarily be approved anymore. And this is a big part of why we wanted to speak to the community, give info sessions, get the word out there that these elite schools are really coming under fire with Jordan's principle because there's no social, medical, or educational need for our children to attend, say, Cooper for athletics. There's the CIHA, which is a hockey academy in Ontario. There's the Hill Academy. These are schools that Jordan's principal is looking at saying it's not really a necessity that your child attend these places. So this was a big thing for me to get the word out to you guys that if you are going to enroll your child into these schools, it is a risk for you financially that you have to realize it's more than likely not going to be approved, and that the tuition costs will be up to you. It'll be up to you and your family to cover. These schools are very expensive, but with the changes, I'm not seeing that Cooper, the CIHA, these kind of places will be funded anymore for tuition. So I wanted to, get that message out there that if your child gets in and gets accepted, that the tuition can be, $30,000-$40,000. This will be up to you and your family. I know the Ed Center does give a contribution to our community children for tuition, but a lot of families have relied on Jordan's principle in the past for funding. So I just wanted to, just say be careful, make sure that you're prepared for the costs of these places, because it's not looking good for these types of schools.
If your child had previously been enrolled and approved for private school funding, will they continue to be approved?
So if your child does attend these schools now, it doesn't mean that they were approved in the past. It doesn't mean that they're going to continue to be approved and funded through Jordan's principle. Like I said, it's a case by case, it's year by year. So if they were approved last year, which I know, our students were, with these changes that have come in Jordan's principle, this coming school year, I don't see these types of schools being funded. So that's big. If you're not financially able to pay the tuition, you're going to have to think about, well, where can I send my child for this upcoming year? What schools will be funded? And Jordan's principle is kind of saying, well, you have a high school in your community. There is Billings. There are schools that don't cost anything. There's no extra tuition to tuition cost for the family. So they're going to start suggesting that our community children attend these types of schools instead of the high-priced elite academies instead.
There have been discussions about the possible closure of Centennial Academy. If the school remains open, will tuition still be covered through Jordan's principle for families who rely on that support?
So yeah, a big question for us that I know a lot of community members have reached out is Centennial Academy. There's a high number of our community children that attend Centennial, and I'm sure that the rumors have been out there that Centennial may be closing down. I spoke to somebody at Centennial this week, and even they're not sure. At this point, she said maybe a few more weeks, and they'll have the decision of whether they're remaining open. So we're going to have to wait for that. But if Centennial does remain open, and your child attends for a specific reason, because Centennial is an excellent school that is known for its, smaller class sizes, one-on-one attention to our students, a lot of educational needs are met at Centennial for specific children. So if Centennial does remain open and we have those supporting letters from either previous schools or a doctor, or there's that specific diagnosis of for your child, I see that Centennial will be funded through Jordan's Principal, because these are very specific needs of our children. It's not just, well, my son needs to play hockey and I want him to attend that school. Centennial is known for its for meeting educational needs of students, which is needed. I really hope that Centennial remains open and remains, continues to educate our children, because there's a lot of our kids that do need an academy like Centennial for their success in their education. So I see, if Centennial remains open, um, I see it being funded for our kids that have those specific letters, the supporting documents, because their needs will be met at Centennial. Once we hear anything, we'll definitely put it out to the community. I know Centennial plans on making a press release once the decision has been made, whether they'll stay open or not. So fingers crossed, and we'll just have to wait to hear.
When should I apply for funding, especially in regards to school tuition?
When it comes to tuition and applying, especially for funding for school, school starts at the end of August into September. So I highly recommend that if you need help, reach out, contact us, and apply as soon as possible for tuition. Now is a good time. Of course, we have to wait for Centennial if that's your school of choice, but the Ed Center is gearing up to put out their contribution for this upcoming school year, which is needed to apply for Jordan's Principal. So we need that letter from the Ed Center, and schools are able to give you the quote for tuition for 25-26 for the upcoming school year. That's a document that's also needed for funding, to apply for funding. So if you can gather these documents, reach out to your school, reach out to the Ed Center, connect with us, and we'll help you apply. But the sooner the better. The backlog is still happening. I know we were used to a way of Jordan's Principal being approved very quickly. But due to changes in the government, in the ISC, the backlog was a big issue this year. It's getting smaller, it's getting shorter, but my advice would be to apply for things sooner than later. So gather everything that you need. Reach out, will help. But now I would suggest is the time, in case it takes 2 months for the approval. It would come in just in time for school to start, so that we can pay the tuition and get the funding that you need.
If I'm not sure where to start, who can I contact?
So I hope I've answered some of the questions that are out there in the community. We did do a little info session, and we had a pretty good turnout, and I think we had an open discussion. There were questions, and I'm hoping that this helps clear some rumors or some concerns that are floating around in our community right now. I want you to know that we're here to help you with any requests, to answer any of your questions. Myself, you can give us a call. There's always ungwa.org, which is our website. And you can click on there. You can read up about Jordan's Principal. It'll outline the documents that are needed. But there's always somebody here on the other end of the telephone. Love to have a conversation with you, and sort of, help you through this process, help you understand the changes that are happening, and hopefully, help you get the funding that is needed for your children, for our community, just to, help out.